What would you do? I said that I would suspend him for a game. What would you do?
I don't know that I would go that far, but he's got to be reprimanded in some respect. I'm not going to make as big a deal out of it because the way it works, I know JR has had issues in the past that have come into question, brought into question, his standing as a player. But when you look at it from the standpoint of what's been the case for the Cavs with J.R. Smith, he's been a great citizen, and obviously a great player for him. And I would equate it to a first offense. And even with first offense, when you talk about fines, I would probably have a fine, but I'm not going to the level of suspension.
But hold on a sec, Greg. I hear you, and I respect where you're coming from. And listen, I understand that athletes are different. When you played in the 90s on that Knick team, first of all, you would have had 5 guys waiting for you outside the locker room to kick your ass, and they would have been named Oakley and Mason and Ewing. Trust me, I know. They're different athletes. I get it. But there's got to be just a basic standard in the way professional athletes comport themselves. And he challenged that line. He wasn't even on the court to play, Greg. Come on.
Yeah. No, look, I'm with you. I do think that a fine is in order. But bigger picture, you also have a responsibility to the rest of my team. So, and Tiki knows this. So, yeah, I want to punish the individual. But do I want to punish the individual and potentially punish the team? That's why I said the fine, because you're going to punish, you take a substantial amount of money out of somebody's pocket, that's significant. And it sends a message that kind of behavior is not going to be tolerated. Having said that, though, you got to judge him based on being a Cav. And so, to your point, if I haven't done anything wrong, and I've been there, 3 years now? However long it's been, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. I'm then not going to go and look at all the issues you've had when you played for Denver or New York. I'm going to base it on your experience in our organization. And if that's his first major offense, I don't know that would warrant a suspension. Now, it was boneheaded. It was stupid. All those things I give you. But I don't think I'm going to go, like I said, to the point where I'm going to suspend him and then potentially hurt my team because of it. So, that's just my take on it. I'll be interested to see how they approach it. But generally, you base it on your experience with that player. Like, I'm not focused on what JR did with the Knicks or Denver. What's he done for me? And I'm going to base it on that experience as a front office type or a head coach. When it comes down to doling out that kind of a punishment.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing you can do is fairness from what you've experienced, not from what you've heard. The other side of the game, you're talking about the Cavs here. The other side of that game on Thursday, your doubleheader on TNT, is the Clippers. Now, the Clippers, they started the season hot. They had the best record in the Western Conference. I don't know if this means anything. You tell me if it does. They played Dallas. They beat Dallas. That they stayed in Dallas to watch the Cowboys play. And then they lose the Pistons. They've lost 3 of the last 4, I believe. They looked like crap in the fourth quarter last night. They rest Blake Griffin because they want him to play against the Cavaliers. What's going on with the Clippers right now? From what we thought, they were going to be great and a surprise. Are they coming back to earth, or they're just a little blip?
Yeah, I think we're going to know more in that game on Thursday. And I think it's a great point. I think one thing that's going to happen is you won't see – they've lost the opportunity to get a little leeway from Doc Rivers. And this is, again, something that happens in sports. You've done some things, you're playing really well, a coach is going to be willing to maybe, okay, hey, you know what, it's Thanksgiving, we're going to spend the extra day. A lot of Cowboy fans on the team, obviously DeAndre Jordan's from that area. So I get that. But they didn't handle the success well, right, having lost those 3 in a row. And bigger picture, it's not as big a deal, but how they handle it is. And that's, to your point, Tiki, them coming out now Thursday in some respects, that big test. You're going against the defending world champs who are also going to be coming off a disappointing loss.
Yep.
And it's a nationally televised game. You're going to get their best, you would assume, and you want to see, if you're Doc Rivers, how this group responds. And so I think that game, not even a matter of you winning it, but how you play in it is going to be telling for me and a lot of people moving forward, because this is a team that has been – they've been somewhat fractured mentally. They haven't been as tough-minded you remember the meltdown they had a couple years ago, up 3-1, up big in the fourth quarter against Houston. They lost that series. The issues Blake had with the fight midway through the season, he's out extended period, and they have the injuries in the postseason. They get knocked out in the second round. So they haven't always dealt well with adversity. Blake's in a contract year. Chris Paul's in a contract year. This is a big moment. Generally, this early in the season, I don't call them big games, but they are barometer games.
Yeah.
Especially to your point, when you've lost 3 in a row, and lost 3 games that you probably were favored to win all 3.
Hey, Greg, by the way, you referenced the fight with Blake. Is it really a fight if you're 140 pounds heavier than a little pipsqueak that he picked on outside the restaurant?
Well, good point. Good point. Let's call it an altercation.
There you go.
We'll change the term. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I'm with you. Greg Anthony, of course, Turner Sports, NBA TV analyst, and we get a nice one tomorrow, a little double dip on TNT, and then we referenced it before. You got 2 games, Cavs and the Clippers, and you have the Warriors and the Rockets, and we've said this many times. We're just big fans of TNT. It's fun. You guys keep it loose. The coverage is great. We're big fans. And I wanted to ask you this. There's before we get into something that Coach Gentry said about Anthony Davis and LeBron. It's an interesting conversation that we've had. We want to get your thoughts. I think that, diehard NBA fans would probably identify Utah and Portland and the Pacers as a couple of teams that really haven't necessarily, for various reasons, played up to expectations yet. Give us a team or two positively that you think is overachieved that you also think can maybe sustain it for the rest of the season.
That's a good question. I would say, and again, they haven't played great the last couple games, but Charlotte, if you look at a team in that Eastern Conference, and Atlanta. And Atlanta, again, has had their struggles. They're in the midst of a tough road. But, again, I'm looking big picture, not as much focused on the record because, what you're seeing throughout the league, and you guys, and Brandon, you follow the NBA closely, and I know Tiki's a fan as well, there's a lot more parity, and the teams are from top to bottom better. You don't have the easy wins on the schedule, that you used to have. I mean, think about it. Dallas is basically the worst team in the league right now. Who'd have ever thought that?
Yeah, they're so well coached that they're going to at least play hard.
Yeah, and so you don't get those easy wins. So I would start with those teams, and then in the West, again, they didn't look at last night, but Houston has been pretty impressive when you factor in that they've also played 12 road games out of the first 18.
Yeah, that's true.
And have a winning record. That's pretty impressive for a team. Obviously, they're not going to be noted for their defense, but that's a pretty impressive start. And then I'd also throw Oklahoma City in there because of how brilliant Russell Westbrook has been. But more importantly, they've been winning. That to me is it's more important. The fact that his guys are really buying into him and trusting him. And boy, he's been as good as I've seen anybody play the game at that point guard position. And I can't even recall the last time I saw anybody come.
Isaiah. Yeah.
Isaiah was phenomenal and one of the best to ever do it. But even Isaiah will tell you he couldn't impact the game. This guy had 18 rebounds.
That's true. That's true.
He's doing stuff. He's like a LeBron James at the point guard right now.
Yeah, well said.
In terms of how he's affected all facets and physically just is imposing his will on people. So to me, those are 2 teams or a couple teams, I should say, that have been really standing out with how well they played. And you have a good barometer. You've gotten almost 20 games in. You guys are talking about you're almost a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, no, you talking about the Thunder and the Rockets. They're 5-6. Kind of flip respectively in the Western Conference. The team that's just above them is the Grizzlies. Now, Mike Conley goes down with a back injury, and he's been balling, man. He got paid a lot, but he's been living up to it. Now he's down. Chandler Parsons has been down. Looks like Wade Baldwin, their first-round draft pick, is going to have to pick up a lot of this slack. Did they take a significant step back with this happening?
Well, I would say generally with good teams that have a winning culture, you can sustain it for a stretch. If it were a week or 2, I wouldn't be concerned. But when you start going 6 to 8 weeks, that could be a big concern for this group. And I think it will be. This is a team that already really struggles at times to score the basketball. And in an era where, your offense has to have an impact, to lose basically their best offensive player in some respects, that's going to be a lot to try to make up. I think they're going to still be competitive, but I do think that you could look at them right now. Again, it's not that we're in the playoffs, but right now the season were to end, I mean, hey, they're right there at that 4-5 spot. I think by the time he gets back, they could very well find themselves on the outside looking in and having to fight for their playoff lives, because that's, you're talking 2 months. That's going to get you basically almost to February.
Yeah.
That's if everything goes well. You never know with these kinds of injuries, and so it's going to be a challenge for them and for him, because he's not going to be able to do much. Some injuries, you when you're out, you can work on conditioning. With it being a back, there's not much he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Even when he comes back, makes it all the more time for him to get a feel and a rhythm and get back into the groove for the Grizzlies.
Hey, Greg, so you were just talking, obviously, and we have one of our TVs in studio. We have NBA TV on, and we see Greg with his slick pinstripe gray suit, the pink tie. We see C. Webb rocking the glasses, trying to look smart. Then you got Kevin McHale, and I love C. Webb. I think C. Webb's good on TV. And then you got Kevin McHale. Does Kevin want to coach anymore? Because let's face it, he got absolutely screwed by the Rockets. Screwed.
Yeah, he did. I don't think so. I think at this stage, he's first of all, Kevin's one of the best human beings you'll ever meet. And just an awesome guy, great brain, and unbelievable storyteller, and very candid. I think that's the thing I love about it. I mean, he is very honest about his assessment of everything, and some might say to a fault. But I love that about him. I really don't think so. And I spent a lot of time with him. We talk a lot about just life and where he is in this phase. I don't think that there's many scenarios that he would consider in terms of coaching at this point, but I don't want to put words in his mouth.
No, I got you.
That's the sense I've gotten in talking to him. He's been around this game a long time at the highest levels and had a lot of success in all the different levels, front office, coaching, playing, obviously. And I think he likes the freedom and the lack of stress that he's dealing with right now at this stage of his life.
Now, is it true? I heard a rumor that he can sit on the couch in the green room, and with those long arms, he could actually open the door without getting up. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, those arms are pretty long. I definitely, he'll reach across and give you a bear hug from a different room. That guy's got. And Isaiah Thomas and I we were in a production meeting last night, and Isaiah and Steve Smith, they were working before us. And Isaiah looked at me and laughed like, man, every time I'm in the room with him and C. Webb, I just feel small.
Yeah.
Those are two big human beings. And it's true. It's different when one's there. You can kind of adjust to that. But when they're both there, they're both massive human beings. And, we're just kind of average-sized guys.
Hey, yeah. Greg, you know how I felt standing behind offensive linemen all my entire life.
Yeah, but you needed them.
Because the defensive line couldn't see you.
Good point. Very good point.
Hey, Greg, before you go, we got to get your answer on this, and we'll make it quick. Of course, we're talking to Greg Anthony. He's on Twitter at GregAnthony50, TNT. You got the doubleheader on Thursday. Tomorrow, Cavs and the Clips. You got the Warriors-Rockets at 8. Greg, former UNLV star. So Coach Gentry said, and you don't really need to elaborate because I know we do have to bounce. We're going to get into this next for Tiki and I, so you can keep it kind of short. If you were a GM and you had access to every player in the NBA, and you got to incorporate, obviously, medical history and age and all that stuff that you know that you need to incorporate, who are you taking to start a franchise with right now?
Oh, man, it's a tough one. AD would be high on the list.
Yep.
I would say that. I think there are 5 guys that whoever you were, if you got them, you'd be fine with, and AD would be in that list. I don't think there's one guy, because I'm going to trust you. Let me tell you this. I would still probably take LeBron. Because I know I have him for at least 5 good years. And there aren't many GMs or coaches that last more than 5 years.
You don't get 7-year deals as GMs. You're right.
No.
That's a good point.